guys, this is Tony with Atlanta Rifle Works, and today we're going to be reviewing the KNS gas piston systems for AK style rifles. Alright, today we have a Wasser 10 with a dead air Wolverine PBS 1 and a regular AK piston and an adjustable KNS AK piston. We also have the tools that are necessary for installation. We have our spring and our dust cover, our bolt carrier, and our bolt. So a traditional AK gas piston, right here, works by taking gas from a small hole in the barrel, coming up the gas block, and into this chamber right here. There are two little vent holes, which once this piston comes a little bit past that, the excess gas vents out here, and all the force is acting on the front of this piston. With a KNS piston, you have an adjustment knob right here. And what this knob does is this actually either conceals or exposes a port. On the front of the piston, there's a small hole to let the gas through and to come out of this port. So depending on how much gas you want to release, you can adjust accordingly. Now this is actually the small bore version. On my Wasser, I have installed the large bore version, which has not one but two gas ports. So for the adjustment process, what I would recommend doing is backing the piston all the way off so that the ports are completely open and adjusting 5 clicks at a time, right? So when you do that, the rifle will not cycle. Take your gun apart again, adjust it 5 more clicks until it does cycle. After you get cycling, you'll add an additional 5 clicks to guarantee reliability. So the installation process can be very difficult for some of these if you don't have any machining knowledge or experience. On this carrier, with a traditional piston, this is welded shut on both sides with a blind pin. So you can't see where the pin starts. A lot of times this will be black, just like the finish on the carrier. And what you have to do is drill this pin out. To do that, I would recommend using a tungsten carbide 3/32 drill bit. This is a straight flute drill bit. Got this off of McMaster-Carr or one of those industrial sites. They're about $14. So after you drill out with this one, you'll need to use a 1/8 to drill out the standard piston. Now, once you've drilled this hole, sometimes the piston will come right out like it's supposed to. Other times, this weld that holds that pin in has actually gone all the way into the piston. You see here on this one, the threads are completely stripped out. I actually had to grind wrench flats in the end of the piston to be able to twist this out of there. If that happens, you'll need a tap in 12mm by 1.25, and that is the thread pitch of the inside of this carrier. If you did salvage your piston, I would recommend running a die over it a couple times just to make sure there aren't any burrs. Once your piston is out, then you will install your KNS piston. It just threads in. You'll rotate it until one of those holes lines up for the roll pin, and you just tap that roll pin in, and you are all set. So for adjusting this piston, if you do plan on switching ammunition types, it is sensitive to that. So currently I'm using Red Army Standard, and with that, it requires the piston to be backed all the way off. And with tool ammo, it requires, I believe, 15 clicks from the bottom to cycle reliably with light felt recoil with that type of ammunition. So again, depending on your rifle, KNS actually for the Wasser, they recommend the small bore. Mine was so overgassed I had to use the large bore to vent more gas pressure through. They do come in different lengths. This one is for an SLR 104 UR, also known as a Krinkov, and this is the length for the Wasser 10. Now, they make them for all different kinds, Galils, Galil Aces, even PSLs. So contact them or just look up the model numbers for what type of piston you need for your AK. Now, let's talk about suppressed versus unsuppressed use of this piston. So, unsuppressed use, if you want to keep these ports closed all the way, right? This will act like your stock piston. If you start opening it up, that will actually alleviate some of the recoil. If you have your AK kicking brass, 30 feet to the right of you, you might want to open this up a little bit. And it actually makes for a much more shootable gun. With a suppressor, these are almost absolutely necessary. I only have one AK that likes to run without one of these pistons. That's actually what I ordered this one for the Krinkov, which won't run by itself without a booster. So with a suppressor, it runs just fine. It's not overgassed, right? Now, how can you tell if it's overgassed? Well, when you're shooting on your dust cover, you have this detent hole. You will be catching gas in the eye. So keep tuning down your piston until you're not getting a lot of excessive back pressure through your chamber, right? So that's one good indicator of overgassing with a suppressor, is that you are getting gas coming out of this detent hole. And then one more quick note about running subsonic ammunition. With this rifle, it likes to have the piston all the way closed and those ports completely concealed for subsonic, and then for all the way open with supersonic. So with that all the way closed, if you start exposing these gas ports at all with the subs, I've been running the 196 grain Brown Bear, it won't cycle properly or reliably. So it likes to be all the way up there. Now, if I change to a different brand of subsonic ammunition, it may be a little hotter. It just depends on the rifle combination and the ammunition combination. It's a lot of trial and error. But once you get it figured out, you write down on a notepad how many clicks it is for that type of ammo you're using and what type of gun. If you're sticking with one ammunition type, then I wouldn't worry too much about it. So now what we're going to do real quick is we're going to throw this back together. And right now it is set up for supersonic rounds with the suppressor. Put our bolt back in. Run your spring back in. And put your dust cover back together. We're good to go. Alright guys, hopefully this video helped. Now that we've got our piston installed, we're going to take it out to the range. Hey guys, we're at the Igloo today, and we're going to be testing a KNS piston with a Wolverine. We're going to be running on the Supersonics, some Red Army Standard. Do a couple slow fire. And finish the rest off. Clear. And all you have to do, adjust the piston. Might be a little bit hot. Find out. Yeah, it's a little hot. Grab that guy, give it a couple twists. Not only is the shirt good looking, it's functional. Gloves would help, but I didn't bring any. So, close the piston all the way up. Slap it back together. And we're going to be running some Brown Bear subsonic 7.62 by 39 circle 11 mag.
Do a couple slow fire. There you go. Use the M2 as a smooth camera gimbal.